So in the need to know Schlegel notes part 3, we have some new information. And that new information is the profit function. And what we can state is that profit is equal to revenue minus cost. And so we've talked about this a little bit previously. I think we used my son and a lawn mowing example as my son and a lawn mowing business as an example. In that businesses incur costs, and as businesses make money, we call that revenue. And profit is what is left over after we subtract the costs from the money that we have made. And so the idea is we want to make more money than we spend producing and selling a product. That's how we get profit. If we aren't able to do that, we are not going to end up in business for very long. So profit, a definition there, the profit is the money left after paying costs. Revenue is the price per unit times the number of units. And so let's say that I was selling Gatorades for $2 each. My revenue could be represented by $2 per Gatorade. So my revenue would be equal to 2x because I would make $2 for every Gatorade that I sold. And so again, our revenue function is going to be the price for one item times the total number of items. And in this case, since we do not know how many Gatorades I have sold, we're going to use a variable and call it x. Lastly, in our definitions there, everyone, we do have two different types of cost. We have costs that are considered fixed costs, and these are things like if you owned a salon, renting the building, paying for electricity, paying for air conditioning, those sorts of things. Variable costs are costs that change as you produce and sell items or as you do your business. And so using the salon example, variable cost might be something like how many hairdressers are working that day in my salon. If there are 3 today, I have to provide 3 salaries. If there's only 1 tomorrow, I only have to provide 1 salary. And so variable costs are things that can change over time. In terms of a business that produces and sells items, let's say we had a business that was producing and selling paper for schools. Variable cost might be how much lumber costs to get the pulp to make the paper that month, because that cost can go up and down. And so variable cost is basically any cost that is going to change month to month. Using a real world example of my own home for variable costs and fixed costs, my electric bill is pretty much the same every month. My water bill is pretty much the same every month. My house payment is the same every month. These are all things that I can predict and know about how much they're going to be. I would consider those to be fixed costs. Variable costs in my home might be things like, gee, I need to paint the house this year, and so that's going to cost me $3,000. Or, oh my gosh, the roof is leaking and I need to fix that. So that's going to be a cost that comes out that is not something that is repeating and not something that I can necessarily predict and plan for on a regular basis. So lastly, we've got break even. We've discussed break even a little bit up until this point. And there are 2 ways that we can find break even as we work through these problems. And so I believe that we have discussed so far the notion that break even occurs when profit is equal to 0. Since we have established a moment ago that profit is equal to revenue minus cost, if the value of revenue minus cost is 0, it would mean that those 2 numbers were the same, because something minus itself is 0. And so from that, we can say that, hey, if profit is 0, and that means that's when break even occurs, break even also occurs when revenue is equal to cost. Let's do a quick example showing that, illustrating that. So if I've got profit equals revenue minus cost, and my revenue is 100, and my cost is 100. If I were to put those into this profit function, I would have profit equals revenue, which is 100, minus cost, which is 100, and my profit would be equal to 0. So restating again, there are two ways to establish a break-even point. One is when profit is equal to 0. The other is when revenue is equal to cost. Because when revenue and cost are equal, like right here and right here, they will make 0. We'll get into using this quite a lot in this next section, and you will have the option of which formula you use, although it will be much more efficient to use one of these that I'm circling in blue than the other one, just depending on what information you were given in the problem that you are working on. With that, I hope this is helpful, and we'll get going on to our next little section here.